Hi, this is still Angelique Villemay, Senior Lecturer at Aix-Marseille University, and welcome to this third session, which concludes the module on leadership and social skills for impact entrepreneurs. I will quickly go over the general objectives of the module since they were explained in detail during session 1, and dive on the topic of responsible leadership, harnessing motivation, effective communication, active listening, and mutual trust. The objectives of this session are: first, identify social competencies necessary for responsible leadership, apply motivational communication and interpersonal management theories in a CSR context, and 3, explore how these competencies support the ethical vision of leadership. What's responsible leadership? Responsible leadership goes beyond the traditional leader-follower dynamic by encompassing a broader range of stakeholders. Unlike conventional leadership models that typically focus on financial success or organizational goals, responsible leadership emphasizes the ethical and sustainable responsibilities leaders have towards society at large. And as outlined by Mack and Pless in 2019, responsible leadership is about ensuring that leaders act with integrity, fairness, and foresight to tackle pressing societal challenges like geopolitical instability, climate change, and pervasive social inequalities. Responsible leadership is based on 3 core principles. Virtuous leadership. Responsible leaders are expected not to just avoid harm, but to actively contribute to the greater good. As Mack and Pless suggested in 2019, these leaders embody virtues such as honesty, empathy, and integrity, which are reflected in their behavior and decision-making processes. The principle of doing good and being good speaks to the character and ethical compass that guide their actions, ensuring that decisions benefit a wide array of stakeholders while promoting justice and fairness. Responsible leadership expands its focus from merely achieving economic success to addressing social and environmental needs. In this context, leaders are tasked with balancing the pursuit of profits with their responsibility towards sustainable development. This requires adopting long-term perspectives and taking proactive measures to mitigate the negative impact of their operations on society and the environment. As such, responsible leadership champions the integration of ethical practices into every facet of leadership, from organizational strategy to decision-making and policy development. As the world grapples with numerous social challenges such as pandemics, failing states, and growing inequalities, the need for responsible leadership has never been more critical. In this turbulent context, leaders must be equipped to provide ethical, innovative solutions that not only solve immediate problems, but also create a foundation for long-term social and environmental stability. This requires a level of resilience and flexibility, as leaders must adapt quickly to changing conditions while remaining anchored in their values. Furthermore, climate change and resource scarcity are among the most pressing issues of our time, requiring a shift towards sustainable practices. Responsible leaders are expected to lead by example, formulating strategies that account for both the long-term impact of their actions and the broader environmental implications of their decisions. Such leaders understand the urgency of acting now to prevent further damage to the planet and the future generation that will inherit its challenges. Responsible leadership is inherently linked with corporate social responsibility. Embedding CSR into a company strategy not only allows businesses to fulfill their ethical duties, but also provide them with a competitive edge in today's socially conscious market. By aligning their operations with broader social values, responsible leaders can contribute to sustainable development while also enhancing their company's reputation, brand loyalty, and employee satisfaction. Furthermore, integrating CSR practices enables businesses to address moral imperatives such as environmental stewardship, fair labor practices, and social justice, while simultaneously meeting the expectations of customers, investors, and regulatory bodies. And in this way, CSR becomes a critical tool in realizing the vision of responsible leadership, creating value for both society and the organization. Place works has shed light on the different roles of responsible leaders, which they classify into three categories: normative roles, relational roles, and operational roles. Let's talk here about normative roles. The first one is citizen. Responsible leaders view themselves as citizens of both their organizations and the broader society. They recognize the collective responsibility businesses have in addressing social problems such as poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. These leaders are committed to making positive contributions beyond their organizational boundaries, advocating for social change and supporting policies that benefit the common good. The second role is steward. As stewards, responsible leaders protect the organization's values, resources, and culture. They ensure that the company's philosophy aligns with its actions and that the leadership team stays true to the ethical principles that guide the business. This role involves being a custodian of both tangible and intangible assets, ensuring long-term sustainability by integrating ethical decision-making and corporate values into daily operations. And the third role here in normative roles is visionary. Indeed, responsible leaders are also visionaries. They are capable of inspiring and guiding stakeholders toward a common purpose. They articulate a clear and compelling vision that motivates others to act in ways that are consistent with shared values and social needs. These leaders are forward-thinking, looking beyond immediate profits to build a more just and sustainable future for all. Let's talk about relational roles. So the first one is servant. The servant leader is focused on the needs and well-being of stakeholders. By demonstrating empathy and relational intelligence, they foster positive relationships with employees, customers, and other stakeholders. This role requires active listening, humility, and a commitment to developing others, empowering individuals to contribute their full potential to the organization's success. The second is boundary spanner. Responsible leaders play a crucial role in connecting different groups within and outside the organization. As boundary spanners, they facilitate communication and collaboration across various stakeholder groups, breaking down silos and fostering a culture of inclusivity. And they act as bridges between departments, industries, and communities, ensuring that diverse perspectives are considered in decision-making processes. The last role is communicator, and here effective communication is key to a responsible manager, of course, and responsible leaders clearly articulate their vision, values, and goals, fostering engagement and buy-in from stakeholders. And by maintaining transparent communication, they create a culture of trust and openness, enabling stakeholders to align their actions with the organization's purpose and values. Let's talk about the operational roles. So the first one is change agents. Here, the responsible leaders are agents of change, driving transformation that create positive social impact. They challenge the status quo and seek innovative solutions to address pressing issues such as climate change, inequality, and organizational inefficiency. Through their leadership, they help organizations to adapt to new realities and create lasting social value. The second role here is architect. The responsible leaders design and implement fair, inclusive systems and processes within their organizations by ensuring that policies are just equitable and transparent. They create environments where everyone has equal access to opportunities and resources. And this role involves structuring the organization in a way that promotes fairness, inclusion, and respect for diversity. And the last role is coach. Indeed, as coaches, responsible leaders focus on developing the potential of their stakeholders. They offer guidance, mentorship, and support to help individuals achieve their personal and professional goals while fostering a sense of community within the organization. By encouraging continuous learning and personal growth, they help create a workforce that is both engaged and empowered. Building on the principles of responsible leadership, we now turn to authentic leadership, which emphasizes leading with integrity and self-awareness. This concept has emerged as a response to the growing complexity of our world as it is today. Crises such as SARS pandemic, ethical failures in companies, and terrorist attacks have highlighted the need for sincere leadership to overcome obstacles. An authentic leader is one who remains true to their values and principles even in times of crisis. According to Avolio and Gardner in 2005, authenticity in leadership is a response to the need to restore trust and hope in constantly evolving environments. Authentic leadership is based on several key components that distinguish it from other leadership theories. The authors identify these components as moral integrity, transparency, resilience, and a strong sense of ethics. The authentic leader is also characterized by a high degree of self-regulation and self-awareness, which allows them to stay aligned with their values and be a role model for their followers. These leaders develop a genuine relationship with their stakeholders. And this type of leadership allows teams to develop personally and collectively by cultivating an environment of trust, openness, and mutual respect. As Avolio and Gardner indicate, the organizational environment plays a fundamental role in the development of authentic leadership as a positive climate that fosters equal opportunities and access to information is essential for the flourishing of both leaders and their teams. This kind of leadership stands out significantly from other theories. For instance, transformational leadership focuses primarily on motivation and inspiration, while authentic leadership emphasizes the consistency of actions and principles, both from the leader and their followers. Charismatic leadership, on the other hand, relies on the ability to manage impressions, whereas authenticity is based on integrity and personal example. So this distinction is crucial for understanding why authenticity rather than mere motivation or impressions becomes a powerful force in crisis management and the creation of a sustainable organizational culture. So The principles listed here form a framework for authentic leadership that drives sustainable success by balancing profit objectives with societal impact, creating resilient organizations that generate long-term value for stakeholders. Having explored leadership principles, let's now focus on effective communication and active listening, key skills for fostering understanding and strong leadership. Effective communication is based on active and attentive listening. According to Brownell in 2012, listening is essential to communication and is a key skill in professional and academic environments. In an interconnected, information-rich world, listening enables individuals to discern relevant messages and interact more empathetically. The Harrier model, hearing, understanding, remembering, interpreting, evaluating, responding, presented by the author, serves as a structured framework for improving listening. This model highlights 6 interconnected components of listening, each playing a crucial role depending on the communication context. The importance of self-assessment and constructive feedback is also emphasized to develop regular and appropriate listening, thereby contributing to both personal and professional development. So these components are hearing. This refers to the ability to perceive sounds. And however, this phase is not enough for effective communication. Hearing also involves being focused and paying attention to what is being said without external distractions. Understanding. Once the sounds are perceived, it is essential to interpret them correctly. Understanding involves grasping the meanings of words and phrases, and this requires knowing the vocabulary, context, and being able to decode the nuances of language. The process of interpreting messages also relies on the ability to understand these intentions behind the words. Remembering. Memory plays a key role in active listening. It's not enough to hear and understand, it's also necessary to retain the information in order to recall it later or use it in the ongoing conversation. Interpreting. Interpreting goes beyond simply understanding the words. It involves considering the emotional, social, and cultural context of the message. Interpreting allows the listener to assign additional meanings to the words and perceive implicit elements that are not always directly stated. Evaluating. In this phase, the listener evaluates the validity and relevance of what they hear. This includes judging whether the information is reliable, whether it meets expectations, or whether it should be questioned. Responding. The response is the final step in the listening process, and the response can be verbal or non-verbal, and it should reflect active listening. So in summary, the Harrier model helps to understand that effective listening requires much more than just hearing words. It demands deep understanding, the ability to remember relevant information, interpret hidden meanings, evaluate the quality of the message, and finally respond appropriately. By applying these components, the listener becomes an active and thoughtful participant in communication, which fosters more constructive interactions and better mutual understanding, essential in a professional or academic setting. According to Tennant, Long, and Tony Butler in 2017, successful communication can only exist when verbal messages are aligned with non-verbal cues, such as body language. The message here is that leaders and managers must develop reflective listening skills, where they not only receive information but interpret and respond in a way that is congruent, which means coherent, with the emotions and needs expressed. Communication also plays a major role in organizational performance. Kaloganidis in 2020 shows that communication is in all its forms, horizontal, downward, upward, is linked to better employee performance. When communication flows smoothly through these different hierarchical levels, it strengthens employee engagement and improves company profitability. Trust is a key factor in professional and organizational relationships. Mayer et al. In 1995 defined trust as the willingness to take risks based on the action of another party, grounded in the expectation that this party will perform an action important to the truster, regardless of the ability to monitor or control that party. This definition highlights vulnerability, expectation, and the lack of control, which are the core of trust development. The authors identify three key antecedents of trust: competence, benevolence, and integrity. These elements must be present to establish a lasting trust relationship, which is essential for optimal organizational performance. They also highlight the role of perceived risk, which moderates the relationship between these antecedents and trust, suggesting that trust increases with experience and a reduction of risk in interpersonal and organizational relationships. The effectiveness of communication, whether verbal or non-verbal, is fundamental for leadership and management. Developing skills in active listening, message congruence, and organizational trust forms the foundation of successful management. Theoretical models such as HURIER, embodied communication, and the antecedents of trust provide practical frameworks for understanding and developing these skills. By cultivating these abilities, leaders and managers can not only enhance team and organizational performance, but also foster sincere and lasting professional relationships. After discussing how managers can inspire trust and foster responsible and authentic leadership, let's see how motivation theories can also become a tool for responsible management. Motivation theories have greatly evolved over the decades, and their application to responsible leadership helps us understand how leaders can ethically and sustainably inspire and motivate their teams. Motivation is essential for creating an environment where employees are fully engaged in their tasks, while aligning their efforts with the values and goals of the organization. A responsible leader must therefore have a deep understanding of different motivational theories to meet the diverse needs of their employees and foster a positive impact on the organization. How do we study motivation? That's a good question. Motivation can be intrinsic or extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation refers to engaging in an activity for their inherent satisfaction or pleasure derived from the activity itself, rather than for external rewards or pressures. Socio-historical factors can significantly influence intrinsic motivation. These factors shape our values, beliefs, and what we perceive as fulfilling or rewarding, often guiding what activities we find intrinsically motivating. Extrinsic motivation refers to engaging in an activity not for the inherent enjoyment or satisfaction of the task itself, but for an external reward or outcome. These rewards can be tangible, like money, prizes, or grades, or intangible, like praise, recognition, or approval. Essentially, the motivation comes from something outside the individual rather than from within the activity itself. Before we dive into the details of motivation theories, I will talk to you about the tools available to responsible managers to motivate their teams. First, understanding motivation factors. Maslow and Alderfer theories allow us to identify individual needs to organize work effectively. Herzberg theory ensures good satisfaction conditions by distinguishing between hygiene factors and motivators. Desi's self-determination theory focuses on fostering intrinsic motivation by addressing three basic psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Second, fostering engagement at work. First, by combating boredom. Indeed, expanding and enriching tasks allow to avoid monotony. And develop managerial awareness by recognizing that motivation factors evolve over time and adjusting strategies accordingly. The group can affect motivation in two ways. A positive atmosphere with enthusiastic team members can increase motivation, while a negative or tense atmosphere can lower it. Managers can play an important role, especially in remote work, by creating shared moments to build team cohesion and encouraging a positive atmosphere to energize the team. Responsible leaders can also manage motivation with Skinner's reinforcement theory to shape behavior through rewards or sanctions, with Adams' equity theory to ensure fairness and maintain motivation, goal setting to define clear and engaging objectives, and Vroom's expectancy theory to align employee efforts with meaningful and fair rewards. Responsible leaders can motivate their teams by aligning roles with individuals' intrinsic motivations or consider biographical data that might influence motivation. They also can enhance the work environment by recognizing and address the group's impact on individual motivation. Also, they can motivate their team through goal setting by defining clear and motivating objectives while considering employees' expectations and ensure rewards are perceived as fair and engaging. Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs suggests that individuals are motivated by 5 categories of needs, ranging from psychological and safety needs to self-fulfillment. For a responsible leader, it's important to address employees' basic needs: job security, fair wages, suitable working conditions, while also fostering their personal and professional growth. By nurturing their desire for accomplishment, a leader inspires deep engagement and lasting motivation. However, an important limitation of this model is that the linear progression between different levels of needs is not always applicable. Individuals may simultaneously seek to satisfy several needs, requiring a more flexible and nuanced approach from the leader. Herzberg distinguishes 2 types of factors: hygiene factors, work conditions, salary, security, and motivating factors, accomplishment, recognition, personal development. To create a motivating environment, a responsible leader must first ensure the satisfaction of hygiene factors to avoid employee dissatisfaction. However, to maintain sustainable and ethical motivation, they must also activate motivating factors such as recognizing good work, providing autonomy, and offering opportunities for development. That said, one limitation of Herzberg theory is that it assumes a clear separation between hygiene factors and motivating factors, while in reality these factors can be interconnected and evolve over time. Self-determination theory. This theory focuses on individuals' fundamental psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. A responsible leader creates an environment where employees feel autonomous in their work, competent in their tasks, and connected to a cohesive team. Intrinsic motivation is nurtured by the ability to act autonomously, feel mastery in tasks, and feel connected to others. However, a critique of this theory is that it sometimes overemphasizes intrinsic motivation at the expense of intrinsic factors, material rewards, status. In certain situations or cultures, extrinsic motivation may play an equally important role. Alderfer's ERG theory. Alderfer proposes a more fluid version of Maslow's hierarchy with three categories: existence, relatedness, and growth. Unlike Maslow, Alderfer argues that these needs can be pursued simultaneously and flexibly. This model allows employees to satisfy multiple needs at once, such as seeking to fulfill relational needs while pursuing professional growth. A key element of Alderfer theory is the frustration regression principle. When an individual fails to satisfy a high-level need, like growth, they may regress to more fundamental needs, such as security or relationships. For a responsible leader, this dynamic means being particularly attentive to the needs of their employees and the balance between their expectations. However, this model sometimes lacks clarity on how these different needs truly interact in complex management situations. Adam equity theory is based on the idea that employees compare their contributions and reward with those of their colleagues. They seek a balance between what they give to the organization, effort, time, skills, and what they receive in return, salary, recognition, opportunities. If an employee perceives an injustice, it can lead to demotivation or a decline in performance. In the context of responsible leadership, a leader must ensure that employees perceive equity in reward and recognition processes. This requires transparency and fairness in decision-making, as well as equal opportunities for all employees. A critical aspect of Adam's theory is that perceptions of equity can be subjective. What seems equitable to one individual may not seem so to another, making the leader's role crucial in identifying and managing these perceptions. Vroom's expectancy theory proposes that individuals are motivated to act based on three elements: valence, the value an individual places on possible rewards; expectancy, the belief that effort will produce the expected results; and instrumentality, the belief that results will be followed by appropriate rewards. For a responsible leader, this means establishing clear links between employees' efforts, expecting results, and the rewards that follow. An effective leader must fully understand employees' expectations and align rewards transparently to maintain motivation. However, the theory may be less relevant when extrinsic rewards are less effective than intrinsic rewards for certain groups of employees or in creative environments. Responsible leadership should be approached with a holistic perspective by leveraging multiple motivation theories and practices flexibility, transparency, and continuous learning. The bibliography? And I thank you very much for your attention.